I am counting down my top 5 favorite fast food toys of all time. Let's see what made the cut. Before we get into the list, you'll notice I am not wearing my typical 1976 lime green McDonald's employee uniform. I am instead wearing a 1990s service merchandise employee uniform shirt. I'm in costume, it's Halloween. Sure, it might make more sense for me to go as someone from a rival restaurant or something, but that wouldn't let me give a shout out to one of my favorite defunct stores of all time. Do you remember service merchandise? They didn't have fast food toys or anything, but they did have little pads and pencils where you could write little codes of the products you wanted, take those pads to the conveyor belt, give it to an employee, and then down your items would come, down on that conveyor belt, so you could take home whatever it is you bought. It was a different time. But whether you're from that time or this one, thanks for watching. Likes and subscribes help us grow, so please, if you like what you see and hear, feel free to do both. But most importantly, happy Halloween. Okay, now on to my favorite top 5. For this, I had to make some rules. Number 1, nothing too common. We all know the McNugget buddies, we all know the Boo Buckets, we all know that stuff. I wanted to reach a little further into the obscure stuff that people might not have heard of. So to that end, number 2, no McDonald's. McDonald's gets a lot of airtime, and understandably so. There are so many of them. But for this, I wanted to reach into, again, that lesser heard of stuff so that we could talk about some deep cuts. And number 3, nothing too recent. I have been going crazy over Wendy's new Frosty Frights figures, but frankly, I've talked about those enough, and I wanted to go into older stuff that I haven't yet discussed. So with that, in ascending order so that we get to my best one last, here's what came in 5th place. The 1999 Wendy's Eerie, Indiana Kids Pack. I have the Wind-Up Eye here, which is just a fun hopping toy from a spooky TV series I loved as a kid. There were 5 toys in all, including a bone pen, a coin bank fridge, and a door hanger. Fun fact, Eerie, Indiana's co-creator was Jose Rivera, an Obie Award-winning Puerto Rican playwright and screenwriter who also wrote the Motorcycle Diaries. Cool. Number 4, the 1989 Burger King Good Gobblin Meal Pack. These modular toys were as respectable for their play features as they were for their boxes, which were super cool mansions that looked like perfect backdrops to anything in this scale. There were 4 toys in this one, including this pumpkin and a witch, as well as Frankenstein's monster, but with all of them being interchangeable, there were many more character possibilities. Number 3, 1970s Burger Chef Monster Rings. This set had a total of 4 rings, and they are some of the freakiest monsters I have ever seen. If you're not familiar with Burger Chef, go check out my video on how McDonald's essentially stole the Happy Meal from them. They did everything first. For instance, here's Seymour. I'm not exactly sure what Seymour is, and maybe that's the point. He's shifty, that's for sure. There's also Fang, pretty self-explanatory, and Angel, who isn't, and Jethro, a Frankensteinian creature. These came out in the early 1970s, and by the late 1970s, surprise, surprise, McD's had their own versions too. Number 2, 1997's Burger King Universal Monsters Kids Meal. Okay, these are commonly cited as some of the best kids meal toys of all time, and rightly so. They're basically 3.75-inch action figures of Universal horror monsters that plug into a chamber like this crypt or Dracula's coffin and then pop up with the twist of a key. These had no business being fast food toys. They could have easily been sold at Toys R Us and kids would have bought them. We didn't know how good we had it. There were 4 monsters total, with Frankenstein's monster and the creature from the Black Lagoon rounding out the team. Fun fact, NECA is releasing a 4-pack of figures meant to be an homage to this very line. Okay, my number 1 pick, the Treehouse of Horror Burger King Simpsons figures. Okay, now I know many might put Universal Monsters first, but I put these on top mainly because of my nostalgia. See, in 2001, I had just moved to New York on 9/9, and on 9/11, 2 days later, well, we all know what happened. Now, this is not to get too dark, but by October of that year, I was looking for something, anything to get excited about. Enter the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. I loved The Simpsons, and especially those Treehouse of Horror episodes, so when Burger King came out with this line, I took special pleasure in hunting down each and every one. All the premiums were figures that plugged into these light-up bases, and they had such range. With 15 toys in all, the only one I couldn't get at the time was Lisa, a ghost, but you better believe I tracked her down on eBay later. I now have the complete set. Sometimes even the scary toys give us a reprieve from the real-life horrors we sadly live with every day. And those are my top 5. Do you have any you'd like to add? bad, any you totally disagree with, let me know in the comments. Obviously, the McDonald's stuff does fit here, but I needed to stretch a little beyond that just to get in some toys we haven't talked about yet. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Fast Food Toy File. There's a new Fast Food Toy File every week. We explore a new toy, old or new, so please be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And until then, open your toys!